So you have asked me how do I go about creating Power BI reports, and I think the best way to show you that is to actually go through a practical case. I created a Power BI report on the state of democracies in the world recently, and I think that is a perfect opportunity because I still have it fresh in my mind to go through it and to show you how I did it. So let's get started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so the best way, in my opinion, to curb your Power BI skills or any skill is to do it with something that you truly enjoyed. I picked the democracies, this freedom in the world. I'll show you the data set in a second, which basically maps the state of liberties in the world. And it ranks countries by free, partially free, and not free. It's an organization that does that work every year. And that is something that truly interests me. I'm worried about the decay of democracies around the world. This data set has made things more clear as to it is a problem. But we're not here to talk about the actual data set, which we will do. You have to, obviously, but about the process of creating the report. Okay. So pick a topic that interests you, because the process of actually creating the report is going to be a lot more fun and a lot more real, because you will have true questions that you do want to ask the data. In this case, for me, the political status in the world. So how do I went about creating the report that you see? Why did I did it the way I did it? And that's what we are going to discover. So one of the hardest parts in a lot of data projects is actually getting the data. In this case, it was not that, because there is an organization called Freedom House that has people around the world, and they ask every year questions about civil liberties and political rights of their countries, right? And then they produce a report. They have a methodology and they produce a report around that, and they share the data. They share the data in an Excel file. At the bottom of this page is the data. I will share that with you too. So what they are measuring is some indicators. So they have electoral process, political pluralism, so the fact that you can start a political party without any problems, functional government. They have freedom of expression, associational rights for a person, so you can create your own club of whatever interests you, rule of law, and personal. And so the rule of law is basically, I think it's like separation of state and judicial system. And then you have like personal autonomy, so it's the right of a person to decide on their own body and matters. So those are the topics that they ask questions about. You can read all the questions in this page. They explain the methodology very, very clearly. You have the questions here. And then at the bottom, you'll see how they do this. So every country will get a political rights score and will get a civil liberty score. And depending on that, it will be classified the country as free, partially free, and not free. So what I wanted to know is, have the democracies in the world, are they decaying? So is it the liberties of people, are they getting less or more? So I thought that this was all the data I needed. More often than not, that is not the case. I often need additional data sources. This was also the case. Here's the thing. This is measuring the status of a country, if a country is free, partially free, or not free. What I realize is that it's not a country that is free, it's the people that live in a country that is free. And it would be quite interesting to know how many millions of people are free, partially free, not free, rather than how many countries. So I went down and downloaded population data from 2013 to, obviously there's no population data of 2022, they give it in 2023. So I use population data of 2021 as 2022. Now with the pandemic, it's not going to be really true, but more or less. And it did have an impact on the data set, because India lost the free status 2 years ago. So from having 3 billion people that were free, when India disappeared, we went to 1.5. And you see what the difference is, gigantic difference into the numbers. So I'm counting now, representing both countries and population. That was very, very important. Okay, so now we have a data set, we have a goal. I want to see the loss or increase of liberties in the different countries. How do we represent that visually? And something that I always use is, if the organization giving out the data set have created graphs themselves, I take a look at them. So I actually did that. You can see them here. This is actually not from them, but this is like inspiration graphs that I found. You can see this is from the house that delivered the data. You can see how they are representing the exact same data, which was fine, but again, it was measuring how many countries, and I was more interested in how many million people, as well as the countries. But none of these charts actually gave me the idea of how it is going in the world between 2013 and 2020. Yes, you do see the decline here, for example, of improved, how many decline. But it's so hard to see country by country that it did not do what I wanted, what I had envisioned in my head. I wanted to have more detail. You can see my inspiration charts of what I found online. Obviously, I went online and freedom in the world, democracies, look at pictures and see what came up. Nothing really stood out for what I wanted to see. I had a clear vision, even though I didn't know exactly how it looked, of what I wanted. So next step is I go and sketch things. I'm going to show you. So I actually use my iPad with a Apple Pen to sketch everything and to take notes for clients and see everything. I really love working with the iPad. And I'm going to show you my notebook for the project so far. I'm not finished with the project, even though one dashboard is out. And you can see there. So I go through different sketches and I try to figure out what way I could represent the data that shows it the way I want to see it. And we're going to go through the sketches one-on-one, so you'll see how it went from the initial sketch to what it actually became. Okay, so this is one of my early sketches. I'm sure I had others, but this was the first one I found. And again, what I wanted to see is the status of democracies in each country across 2013 to 2022. So I thought I could create the radial chart. It was to be able to show all the countries maybe. And then each color will have the, I was thinking here to do the net score. So have they maintained their position, have they declined? Because one thing that I noticed was when looking at the data and trying to chart it, it was that a country does not go from free to not free over a year period. It just doesn't happen unless there's a political coup, like a government overthrow, that then you would go from free or partially free to not free. It's more like a steady erosion of liberties. They are taken one by one slowly, so you don't notice, basically. So it was very hard to actually show the decline when it was just small changes over time, in most cases. And what I was thinking is how about I show the net scores, how many points they are losing, but that was not showing the pictures. So what I normally do is I sketch something in here, and then I go back to the data, I graph it, and unfortunately I don't have that. And I see, can I see what I want to see? And I couldn't, because again, there's so subtle differences across the years, except for some countries, that it didn't really show the picture. Also, when I am sketching things, even if I'm focused on one question, which is the loss of or gain of liberties through years, that's what I want to plot, I make notes of all the questions that I have. In this case, I could, for example, again, later have the president phase when, you know, the democracies start going down? Or I was wondering, and this is something that I want answered still, it's like, what freedoms go up first? Is there a recipe of, you know, countries that have lost significant loss in their freedom, in their democracies? Is there a set of liberties that you normally target to have that smooth ride without a revolt? I'm going to get answers to those questions, but again, I just write them down and leave them for later. I'll show you what my next work is going to be with this data set later. So I started with this. It didn't really, you could not see the changes. You could not. It was just slight different colors of red and green that said nothing. So then I started to thinking, okay, how about if you remember, there are a few pillars that make out the political rights and the civil liberties, and then a freedom score. So you have the electoral process, they're measuring the political pluralism, they're measuring the function of government. So and those make the political rights. So I thought maybe I could chart them on a radar chart. And then the other ones for the civil rights, and have different colors. And hopefully I could see what starts to disappear for each country, which liberties are taken, and then it results into losing the status altogether. But it was a mess too, and obviously I'm using Charticulator. Power BI visuals will not come close to even answer any of these questions. So with Charticulator, I'm a little bit limited as to what I can do. Not much, but I am. So to create an area radial chart is a huge mess at the moment. So it was like, not very good. Could I have a simpler shape? And that's when I started thinking about the squares. I could have the squares, and then I could have the net change from 2013 and 2022. That's what you see here. And then I started to a little bit more detail, like plotted it, like, oh, and then I can color it. And then I can start getting like, you know, this is getting closer to what I actually came out doing. And it was the max freedom score is the 100 points. And then you have the score for 2013, the score for 2020, and then the net score. So you can actually see how much, even if you can see it of the thickness of the line, you can also see it on numbers, how much you lost. And then again, it's not just countries that are free or not, it's the people in them. So these bars would represent the number of people that are free or not free, depending on the year. So the gray is the 2013, the color one is the 2022. There's a slicer, so you can change that, right? So from here, that's how I got into there. You see now the squares, right? You see the 100, you see this is the loss of liberties. For Turkey is minus 29 points, is a not free. So the red ball, you have here the legend. This is the freedom status for the country. This is the max points you can have. The red one or green one, depending what it is the freedom score in 2013, and the other one is in 2022. And then I animated it. Let me show you. So you can hopefully see how things are getting redder or greener depending if a country is becoming more free or less free. Once I had that, you know, the squares, obviously, as I mentioned, I wanted to have it by country. So I needed to plot, you know, I've seen before and saved. Every time I see a visualization that I like, I save it for future inspirations. So I had seen before this visual that you see here. So I map the points and added it to my data set. I'm going to show you. So you can see here, so I have the country, I have the X and Y coordinates of the map created from this visual, right? So I could plot every country. Now, there were countries here missing that I had on my data set, so I had to add them. I had another sketch, I don't find it somewhere. And that led me to this one, right? So I can now plot everything, and then I could show the change from 2013 to 2020 and see, for real, see, are democracies getting, or are liberties getting more or less on each country, and what is the decrease of them? And there you could see again the population, and then you can adjust the slicers as you like. Really, really powerful. Then it was just the colors. The colors came like, I did not have any theme in mind other than the red for the loss of liberties, the green for the increase of liberties, and the rest, the colors just came gradually, basically. And I did these using Adobe Xd. I'll show you let me show you. So as you can see, I created the background design with Adobe. I think it works very, very, very good for this type of designs. Exported as SVG and beautiful background. Okay, so now let me show you. I have obviously different versions of the report. I'm going to show you. Let's check this out. So here in this Power BI report, you are going to see the different triads that I've done. I'm not sure you will see all of them, but hopefully. So here is the status of democracies throughout history. I don't remember exactly the year, but probably we can check it. So you can see also the decline of liberties around the world. It's like super clear. This will be actually inverted, so we can see the increase of closed autocracies. It's just crazy. So this I made to learn how the Power BI team did their SDGs report with a cool field map, where you could zoom in. It looks quite neat. I pick, again, a data set that interests me to be able to be motivated to go through the nits and grits of the stuff. Here, these small multiples looks super cool and very easy to navigate. I really like this technique. We'll use it in the future. I have also, this is the way that the Freedom House displays the data. Unfortunately, when you look at these, they are showing the net score. So red is countries that have lost liberties in the year that you selected. This is 2022. But for me, it was not enough to actually see how much liberties, how much of a threat it is for us that we're losing so many liberties. Then I have some small tooltips. This one gets activated here. Quite neat. I'm actually using it on the other report. You can see political rights, civil liberties, if they are free or not. I want to show you. This is the one where I was testing the radial chart. You can see, and you can see that you do not see the changes. I mean, if you pick a country, you cannot really see the differences between. I have an idea for that, which is maybe creating the radar chart like this. Unfortunately, you cannot create patterns in Chartculator, so I'm not sure I'm going to do this because the color doesn't work. You need to have a pattern to see the difference between. So the pattern one would be 2013, the other one would be 2022. And maybe we can see what crimps, what shrinks, what liberties go first across the world, regions. Is super cool. I have to create it. I haven't done it yet. But let me go back. So this was my attempt, as I mentioned, not very fruitful, so that I cannot do it like this. Then I have, this is the same, but I was trying to conditional format. It did not work either. This is actually quite cool. I need to sort them properly, but you can see green is the number of, again, countries, not people, which would have to be changed. There are free, partially free, not free. The problem with this is you do not see how free countries are losing liberties. You have no way to do it. And I was thinking I can conditional format this to lower green, where the liberties are losing, which I could do, but I'm not sure how it's going to work. Maybe I'll give it a go, but it is here. It is still some work in process. I might use it. And then I was mapping it into the different regions to see. It's a quite cool picture, actually. It tells you a very clear story of how, the liberties are being lost by the I need to sort it too, but how the purple and yellow are creeping up and the green is getting smaller is so creepy. Look, the only region in the world or continent that does not have any not free country, if this data set is correct, is actually Oceanian. Crazy. Here we have obviously Russia and Belarus, and here you have Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti. This is Venezuela. Yeah, but I think it shows quite a nice picture of the status of democracies in the world. I might use it, but I need to sort it for sure. And again, it doesn't tell the story of what is happening with the countries that are free, and even with the countries that are partially free, they are also, losing liberties. Then we go to, this is where I started to go on track and find a visualization that I enjoyed. And this is my attempt to actually show which liberties go first of the electoral process, but it's still work in process, I don't know. So for next visualizations on this data set, I'm not done with it. What I'm thinking also is that I could, on the chart that we have here, to plot the countries in there, and I just have a sketch here to put where Spain is, where the US is, where Sweden is, where Congo is. And it would be cool if I could, plot where they are moving towards, like 2000, like a Dumble chart, and then you can see where they are moving. Oh, that could be something. Where they are moving, if up or down, or where and what liberties there are, losing, how close they are to actually dropping the state. So thinking about that, here I have, that's the one that you saw, that it looks actually quite good. So here I have another sketch of something that I think it would be quite cool to do. It would be like having the free, partially free, not free, and then people icons, and then having them across the years move from one bucket to another, so you can actually see how many people are losing their freedoms. I thought that maybe to use Sundance, because it has some kind of a visual that might do it. Work in progress, I don't know. But yeah, so now you've got an insight as to how I go about designing things. Obviously, this is for a very creative project where I have no constraints. The way I would go about doing a real project is actually not a lot more different, but I have more constraints as to what can be done and how creative I can be without actually, making things hard to read. I would never put this design into a business report because I know a lot of people won't be able to read it. This was more something for me to test what I could do and to test if my ideas worked, basically. And I really recommend you to do that. It is a very powerful way to curve your Power BI skills, for sure, and to inspire creativity and to have fun using Power BI. So I hope this was useful. I hope it gave you some inspiration and ideas on how you can go about designing your reports. I will see you again in the next video.